The space station hung in the dark void like a silver jewel, its curved walls gleaming under the light of distant stars. Harmony's Edge was the most beautiful thing ever built in this part of the galaxy. 3 different alien races had worked together to create it, even though they hated each other. The station had one purpose: to be a place where enemies could meet and talk instead of fight. Ambassador Veltar walked slowly through the main corridor, his tall, thin body moving with perfect grace. His skin was so clear you could almost see through it, and his large eyes glowed with a soft blue light. The Zephyrians were proud of their beauty and their smart minds. They believed that war should be fought like a dance with perfect moves and no wasted effort. Veltar stopped at a large window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Zephyrian ships were fighting battles against their enemies. The war had been going on for so long that many people had forgotten why it started. All they knew was that the Crystalline Collective and the Vorthan Empire could not be trusted. They were different, wrong, and dangerous. But today might change everything. Today they might finally sign a peace treaty. In another part of the station, Resonance Keeper Thex stood perfectly still in front of a wall covered with numbers and symbols. His body was made of living crystal that sparkled in the light. The Crystalline Collective did not have emotions like other races. They thought only in facts and numbers and logic. Thex had been calculating the cost of the war for the past hour. 743 billion credits spent on weapons, 216 worlds damaged or destroyed, 4.7 billion lives lost. The numbers were clear. Peace would save more resources than war would win. He turned his crystal head toward the meeting room where the talks would happen in 1 hour. The Zephyrians were emotional and unpredictable. The Vorthans were violent and crude. But the math showed that working together would benefit everyone. Even if he did not like his enemies, Thex could accept peace if it was logical. War Prime Gorthak stood in the training room, swinging his massive sword through the air. Each strike was powerful enough to cut through steel. His gray skin was covered with scars from 100 battles, and his red eyes burned with the fire of a true warrior. The Vorthan Empire believed that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. Gorthak hated the idea of making peace with his enemies. The Zephyrians were weak cowards who hid behind fancy technology. The Crystalline Collective were cold machines without souls. A real warrior would fight until victory or death, not sit around a table talking like an old woman. But even Gorthak could see that the war was destroying his people. Vorthan worlds were burning. Vorthan children were dying. His emperor had ordered him to make peace, and a true warrior always obeyed orders, even orders he hated. He put down his sword and walked toward the meeting room. If peace would save Vorthan lives, then he would sign the treaty. But he would never like it. Elder Nexus floated in the center of the meeting room, his ancient body glowing with soft energy. He was so old that his people had forgotten what they used to look like when they had solid bodies. For thousands of years he had helped different races solve their problems without fighting. The peace treaty lay on the table in front of him, written in 3 different languages. It had taken 18 months of careful work to create this document. Every word had been argued over. Every line had been changed dozens of times. But now it was ready. The treaty would divide the disputed territories fairly between the 3 races. It would set up trade agreements that would help everyone make money. It would create rules for how the races would deal with each other in the future. Most importantly, it would end the killing. Nexus had seen many wars in his long life. He had watched entire civilizations destroy themselves over stupid disagreements. This war between the 3 races was just another example of how young species always chose fighting over thinking. But today would be different. Today they would choose peace. The 3 ambassadors entered the room at exactly the same time, as they had planned. None of them wanted to appear weak by arriving first, or rude by arriving last. They took their seats around the circular table, each sitting exactly the same distance from the others. Veltar placed his delicate hands on the table and spoke in his musical voice. "We have spent many months in discussion. Our peoples have suffered greatly during this war. The time has come to end the bloodshed and begin a new age of cooperation." Thex's crystal body made a soft ringing sound as he nodded. "The mathematical analysis is complete. Peace will provide greater benefits than continued conflict. Logic supports this agreement. Gorthak growled deep in his throat, but he nodded, too. My emperor wants peace. The Vorthan Empire will honor this treaty, even though we do not trust our enemies. Elder Nexus smiled, though his energy body had no real face. Then let us proceed with the signing ceremony. This treaty will be remembered as the beginning of a new era in this sector of the galaxy. He gestured toward the treaty document. Each ambassador would sign it with their own traditional methods. The Zephyrians would use a light pen that would leave glowing marks. The Crystalline Collective would imprint their genetic pattern into the crystal surface. The Vorthans would mark it with their blood, as their ancestors had done for thousands of years. But as Veltar reached for the light pen, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed on the walls, and a computer voice spoke, in all 3 languages. Unknown vessel approaching. Designate contact protocols. Unknown vessel approaching. The 3 ambassadors looked at each other with confusion and growing worry. No ships were supposed to be in this area during the peace talks. The location of Harmony's Edge was one of the most carefully guarded secrets in the galaxy. Elder Nexus concentrated, sending his consciousness into the station's sensor systems. What he found there made his ancient spirit tremble with fear. The approaching ship was unlike anything in the galactic databases. Its design was crude and brutal, covered with armor that suggested its builders lived in a very dangerous place. Worse, the life form readings from inside the ship were completely unknown. Whatever was coming toward them had never been seen before. In all of recorded galactic history, the peace talks were about to change in ways that none of them could imagine. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Dawn, watching the alien space station grow larger on the main screen. He had dreamed of this moment for years, but seeing it with his own eyes was still amazing. The station looked like it had been grown instead of built, with smooth curves and crystal towers that sparkled in the starlight. "Look at that thing," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes from her position at the science station. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her green eyes were wide with excitement. "The engineering is incredible. Those support struts shouldn't be able to hold that much weight, but somehow they do." Chief Engineer Pete Rodriguez whistled softly as he studied the readings on his screen. His weathered hands moved quickly over the controls, analyzing everything the ship's sensors could detect. "Their power source is something I've never seen before. Clean, efficient, and putting out more energy than our best reactors." Commander Amy Chen sat quietly at the tactical station, her dark eyes studying the station's defensive systems. She had spent 2 years preparing for this mission, learning everything she could about alien technology from the crashed scout ship they had found on the moon. "I count at least 50 weapon systems, but they're all powered down." "They're not expecting trouble." Dr. Helen Park looked up from her translation computer, pushing her glasses up her nose. The small Asian woman had worked day and night for months to understand the alien languages. "I'm picking up communications between the station and 3 different ship types. The universal translator is working, but barely. Their languages are so different from anything human." Captain Morrison nodded and walked to the center of the bridge. At 45 years old, he was the most experienced deep space captain in the human fleet. His gray hair and lined face showed the stress of commanding dangerous missions, but his voice was calm and steady. "Open a channel, Helen. Let's introduce ourselves to our new neighbors." Dr. Park's fingers danced over her keyboard as she activated the communication system. "Channel open, Captain. Broadcasting on all frequencies they're using." Morrison cleared his throat and spoke clearly into the microphone. "Unknown station, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Liberties. Dawn, we come in peace and request permission to dock. We are representatives of the human species and wish to participate in your diplomatic meeting." The response came quickly, but it was chaos. 3 different voices spoke at the same time in languages that hurt human ears to hear. The universal translator struggled to make sense of the overlapping sounds, producing a jumbled mess of words that barely made sense. "They're all talking at once," Dr. Park said, frowning at her screen. "I think they're surprised and confused. One of them keeps asking what a human is. Another is demanding to know where we came from. The third is running some kind of threat analysis on our ship. Lisa Hayes looked up from her instruments with concern. "Captain, they're scanning us with everything they have. Deep scans, surface scans, even trying to analyze our hull composition. They seem very interested in our armor plating." Pete Rodriguez chuckled as he watched the scanning beams hit their ship. "Good luck figuring out that armor. Earth steel mixed with moon titanium and asteroid metals. We built this ship to survive anything space could throw at us." The communication system crackled again, and this time only one voice spoke. It was ancient and tired, like someone who had lived for a very long time. The universal translator worked better with just one speaker. "Unknown vessel from the planet you call Earth. This is Elder Nexus of the Galactic Mediation Council. Your arrival is unexpected and concerning. We are conducting sensitive diplomatic negotiations that cannot be interrupted." Captain Morrison looked at his crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. They had come too far to be turned away now. "Elder Nexus, we understand the importance of your meeting. That's exactly why we're here. Earth wishes to join the galactic community, and we believe we can contribute to the peace process." There was a long silence. Morrison could imagine the aliens on the station trying to figure out what to do with these unexpected visitors. Finally, Elder Nexus spoke again. "Captain Morrison, your species is unknown to us. We have no record of your world or your people in our databases. This creates a problem. How can we trust beings we know nothing about?" Dr. Park leaned forward and whispered to the captain. "Sir, I'm detecting a lot of private communications between the station and the 3 alien ships. They're arguing about something. The translator can only catch pieces, but they seem scared." Commander Chen frowned as she studied her tactical display. "Captain, those alien ships are moving, not toward us, but they're definitely repositioning. It looks like they're trying to put the station between us and them." Morrison considered this information carefully. The aliens were afraid of them, but why? The Liberty's Dawn was just one ship, and while it was well armed and armored, it was hardly a threat to an entire space station and 3 fleets. "Elder Nexus," Morrison said into the microphone, "we understand your concern about unknown visitors. We're willing to submit to any reasonable security measures. We can provide information about our species, our technology, and our intentions. All we ask is the chance to talk." Lisa Hayes suddenly looked up from her science station with excitement. "Captain, I'm reading incredible biodiversity from that station. At least 6 different atmospheric mixtures, 4 different gravity fields, and temperature ranges that span over 200 degrees. They've created environments for multiple species to live together." Pete Rodriguez nodded approvingly. "That's some impressive life support engineering. These folks know how to work together when they want to." Another long silence followed. Morrison could feel the tension on the bridge as his crew waited for the aliens' decision. They had traveled farther from Earth than any human in history, and now their mission hung in the balance. Finally, Elder Nexus spoke again, and his voice sounded worried. "Captain Morrison, we will allow you to dock, but under strict conditions. You may bring only a small diplomatic party. Your weapons must remain aboard your ship, and you must understand that you are entering a delicate situation that has taken months to arrange." "Understood, Elder Nexus. We appreciate your willingness to meet with us. Docking Bay 7 is being prepared for your arrival. Please follow the guidance beacons." As the Liberty's Dawn moved slowly toward the alien station, Morrison felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This was humanity's first real contact with alien civilization, and the responsibility was enormous. But something bothered him about the aliens' reaction. They seemed more than just cautious. They seemed genuinely frightened, as if the arrival of one human ship had somehow changed everything about their careful peace negotiations. Morrison had no way of knowing that his simple request to join the talks had already shattered 18 months of delicate diplomacy. The 3 alien races were no longer thinking about peace with each other. They were thinking about the unknown threat that had just arrived from a world called Earth. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss, and Captain Morrison stepped onto the alien station for the first time. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal, and something else he couldn't identify. The gravity felt lighter than Earth normal, making him feel like he might float away if he wasn't careful. Behind him came Dr. Park, Commander Chen, and Lieutenant Commander Hayes. They had left Pete Rodriguez on the ship to watch the engines and keep communication open. The four humans looked around in wonder at the beautiful corridor that stretched before them. The walls were made of some kind of living crystal that glowed softly with its own light. Plants that looked like nothing on Earth grew from the ceiling, their leaves changing colors as the humans walked past. The floor felt warm under their feet, as if the entire station was alive. "Welcome to Harmony's Edge," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am Elder Nexus. Please follow the blue lights to the meeting chamber." A trail of blue dots appeared on the floor, leading deeper into the station. The humans followed them, trying not to stare too obviously at the amazing technology around them. But Jake Morrison couldn't help noticing that they hadn't seen any aliens yet. The corridors were empty except for the four of them. "Where is everyone?" Lisa Hayes whispered. "Probably watching us on cameras," Amy Chen replied quietly. Her training made her notice the small sensors built into the walls. "They want to study us before we meet face to face." The blue lights led them to a large circular room with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. In the center was a round table with 4 chairs on one side and 3 very different chairs on the other side. The alien chairs were clearly made for beings with very different body shapes than humans. "Please be seated," Elder Nexus said. "The other representatives will join us shortly." The humans sat down and waited. Jake Morrison straightened his uniform and tried to look diplomatic. This was the most important meeting in human history, and he didn't want to mess it up. The first alien to enter was Ambassador Veltar. The humans had never seen anything like him. He was tall and thin, with skin so clear it was almost like looking through water. His movements were graceful, like he was dancing instead of walking. His large blue eyes studied the humans with obvious curiosity and concern. Behind him came Resonance Keeper Thex, and the humans gasped despite themselves. He looked like a man made of living diamond, with light sparkling through his crystal body. When he moved, he made a soft musical sound like wind chimes. Last came War Prime Gorthak, and even Amy Chen, who had trained for combat her entire life, felt a chill when she saw him. He was huge, with gray skin covered in scars and red eyes that glowed like fire. His massive hands looked strong enough to crush steel. "So," Gorthak said in a voice like grinding stone, "these are the humans." Elder Nexus appeared in the center of the room, his energy body shimmering like heat waves. "Let us begin with introductions. Captain Morrison, would you please tell us about your species?" Jake Morrison stood up and smiled, trying to look friendly. "We're honored to meet you all. Humans come from a planet called Earth, about 50 light years. From here, we're explorers and traders looking to make friends in the galaxy." He walked toward Ambassador Veltar with his hand extended. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Ambassador." Veltar looked at the offered hand with confusion. Dr. Park quickly explained, "It's a human greeting. We shake hands to show friendship." The Zephyrian ambassador slowly extended his delicate hand. Morrison grasped it gently and shook it, but even his careful grip was too strong. Veltar stumbled backward, his thin arm nearly breaking from the contact. "I'm so sorry," Morrison said, genuinely worried. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Veltar held his injured arm and stared at the human, captain with new fear. "Your strength. How is this possible?" Things got worse when Lisa Hayes tried to explain human biology. "We evolved from hunting animals," she said cheerfully. "Our ancestors had to chase prey across long distances, sometimes for days. We're built for endurance and strength." The 3 aliens exchanged horrified looks. Persistence hunting was something they had only heard about in stories of the most savage predators. "You hunt by running your prey to death?" Thex asked, his crystal voice ringing with shock. "Well, not anymore," Lisa laughed. "Now we just go to the grocery store, but our bodies are still built for it." Dr. Park tried to help by explaining Earth's ecosystem. "Our planet has lots of different animals. We have sharks that are perfect killing machines, bears that can crush cars, and snakes with poison that can kill in minutes. And you live with these creatures? Veltar asked, his voice shaking. Oh, they're not really dangerous if you know what you're doing, Lisa said. I used to swim with sharks when I was in college. They're actually pretty gentle. War Prime Gorthak leaned forward, his red eyes burning. You swim with predators for fun? Sure, lots of humans do dangerous things for entertainment. Skydiving, mountain climbing, deep sea diving. My brother races cars at over 200 miles per hour. The aliens were speechless. These humans talked about deadly activities like they were normal hobbies. The situation got even worse during the cultural exchange meal. The aliens had prepared their finest foods, carefully chosen to be safe for unknown biology. Everything was bland and mild, designed not to harm delicate alien digestive systems. Jake Morrison tasted the food politely, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small bottle. This is pretty good, but it needs some flavor. He shook hot sauce made from earth peppers onto his meal. The smell hit the aliens immediately. Veltar's eyes started watering and he began coughing. Thex's crystal body actually changed color, turning from clear to a warning red. Even Gorthak, the mighty warrior, backed away from the table. What is that substance? Elder Nexus asked, his energy body flickering with alarm. Just hot sauce, Morrison said, taking a big bite. It's made from peppers. Pretty mild, actually, Dr. Park tried to explain. Humans enjoy foods that cause mild pain. The capsaicin in peppers triggers our nerve endings, but we find it pleasant. You eat pain for pleasure? Thex asked, his mathematical mind struggling to process this information. Amy Chen made things worse by mentioning her workout routine. I run 10 miles every morning, then lift weights for an hour. Gotta stay in shape. You run 10 miles every day? Gorthak asked. For no reason? It keeps me healthy. Plus, I like the challenge. The warrior who had fought in 100 battles stared at the small human woman with something approaching respect and terror. She talked about running distances that would kill most aliens like it was a simple daily task. By the end of the meeting, the 3 alien ambassadors were in complete shock. These humans were not just another species joining the galactic community. They were something unprecedented, something dangerous. Beings who evolved on a world so hostile that they had become living weapons, simply by surviving. Creatures who ate poison for fun, who hunted by running their prey to exhaustion, who threw themselves off cliffs for entertainment. The peace talks were forgotten. The careful treaty lay unsigned on the table. All 3 species were now thinking about the same thing. What did the arrival of these Deathworlders mean for the galaxy? Elder Nexus called for a recess, and the aliens retreated to discuss this new threat. The humans sat alone in the meeting room, confused about why their new friends seemed so frightened. They had no idea that their simple introduction had just changed the balance of power in this entire sector of space. Elder Nexus floated in the private chamber, his ancient energy body flickering with worry. Around him, the 3 alien ambassadors sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the humans. The peace treaty that had taken 18 months to create lay forgotten on the table outside. We must discuss what these humans mean for our peoples, Elder Nexus said finally. In all my years of mediating conflicts, I have never encountered beings like them. Ambassador Veltar held his bruised hand carefully. Their strength is beyond anything we have recorded. The captain barely touched me, yet I felt like I was caught in a gravity crusher. If they meant harm, our weapons would be useless against them. Resonance Keeper Thex processed the data he had gathered. Their ship's construction suggests they face constant danger. The armor thickness is designed to withstand impacts that would destroy our finest warships. Their world must be a place where death comes from every direction. War Prime Gorthak nodded grimly. I have fought in more battles than I can count, but I would not want to face these humans in combat. Their bodies are built for war, and they seem to enjoy pain. What kind of warrior finds pleasure in suffering? Elder Nexus considered their words. Perhaps we are looking at this wrong. Yes, they are dangerous, but they came here asking for friendship. They could have simply taken what they wanted by force. Could they? Veltar asked. We have 3 fleets in this system. Surely they could not defeat all of us. One ship against 3 fleets? Thex calculated quickly. The mathematics seem impossible, but their technology is unknown to us. We cannot predict their capabilities. Before anyone could answer, alarms began screaming throughout the station. The lights flashed red, and a computer voice announced in all languages. Collision alert. Large asteroid approaching. Impact in 47 minutes. All personnel to emergency stations. Elder Nexus sent his consciousness into the station's sensors. What he found there made his ancient spirit tremble with fear. A massive asteroid, larger than the station itself, was racing toward them. Somehow, it had been knocked from its stable orbit and was now on a direct collision course. The asteroid is too large, he announced to the others. Our defensive systems cannot destroy it. We must evacuate immediately. The 4 beings rushed back to the main meeting room, where the humans were waiting calmly. Captain Morrison stood up as they entered, his face serious. "We've been monitoring your communications," he said. "Our sensors detected the asteroid 20 minutes ago. How can we help?" War Prime Gorthak growled with frustration. "There is no help. The asteroid will destroy this station and everyone on it. We must flee." "Wait a minute," Commander Chen said, studying the data on her portable scanner. "The asteroid is big, but it's not solid rock. Look at these readings. It's mostly loose material held together by gravity." Lisa Hayes nodded excitedly. "Amy's right. If we could plant explosives in the right spots, we might be able to break it apart or push it off course." Dr. Park was already working on her translation computer. "I'm sending the plan to your computers now. We need to coordinate all our ships to make this work." Elder Nexus stared at the humans in amazement. "You want to fly into an asteroid field? And plant explosives? That would be suicide." "Maybe for you," Jake Morrison said calmly. "But humans have been dealing with dangerous situations our whole lives. This is just another problem to solve." Pete Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system from the Liberty's Dawn. "Captain, I've been looking at the asteroid. If we can get close enough, I can rig our engines to push it just enough to miss the station. But someone will have to place the charges manually." "I'll do it," Morrison said without hesitation. "Captain, no," Lisa Hayes protested. "Let me go. I have more experience with dangerous environments." "This isn't a discussion," Morrison replied firmly. "I'm the captain, my crew, my responsibility." The 3 alien ambassadors watched this exchange with growing understanding. These humans were not just powerful and dangerous, they were also willing to sacrifice themselves to save others, even strangers they had just met. "We will help," Veltar said suddenly. "Zephyrian ships are fast and precise. We can guide you through the asteroid field." Thex's crystal body rang with determination. "Crystalline navigation computers are the most accurate in the galaxy. We will calculate the exact placement points for the explosives." Gorthak stood up, his massive frame towering over everyone. "Forthun warriors do not run from danger. We will escort the human captain to protect him from asteroid impacts." Elder Nexus felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Hope mixed with fear. "Then let us begin. We have 35 minutes." The next half hour was chaos. Ships from all 4 species worked together like they had been allies for years. Zephyrian fighters danced through the asteroid field, their pilots performing impossible maneuvers. Crystalline ships used their advanced computers to map safe routes through the spinning rocks. Forthun warships positioned themselves to shield the smaller vessels from the largest debris. In the middle of it all, Captain Morrison piloted a small shuttle toward the asteroid's core. The humans made it look easy, but the 3 alien species watched in horror as the shuttle twisted and turned through spaces that seemed impossible to navigate. "How are they doing that?" Veltar whispered as Morrison's shuttle slipped between 2 massive rocks with inches to spare. "They're insane," Gorthak said, but there was respect in his voice. "Completely insane and completely brave." Morrison reached the asteroid's center and began placing the explosive charges. His calm voice came through the communication system as he worked. "Charges placed. Everyone clear the area. Detonation in 60 seconds." The combined fleet pulled back as the explosives went off. The asteroid shuddered, cracked, and slowly began to break apart. The largest pieces drifted away from the station, while the smaller fragments burned up in the station's defensive shields. Harmony's edge was safe. When Morrison returned to the station, he found something unexpected waiting for him. The three alien ambassadors stood together, and between them was a new document. Not the old peace treaty, but something entirely different. "What's this?" Morrison asked. Elder Nexus smiled, his energy body glowing warmly. "It is an invitation. The three species have decided to form an alliance, and they want humanity to join them." "An alliance?" Dr. Park asked, translating quickly for the others. "But what about your war?" "What war?" Gorthak laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "We have been fighting over territory and resources for decades. But today we learned something important. When real danger comes, we work together better than we ever imagined." Veltar nodded gracefully. "The humans showed us that strength is not just about weapons and armies. It is about being willing to sacrifice for others, even strangers." Thex's crystal voice chimed with satisfaction. "The mathematical analysis is clear. Together, our four species can accomplish things that none of us could achieve alone." Morrison looked at his crew, seeing the same excitement in their eyes that he felt in his heart. This was more than they had ever hoped for, not just first contact, but an invitation to join a galactic alliance. "We accept," he said simply. As the four species worked together to sign the new alliance treaty, Elder Nexus reflected on the day's events. The peace talks had indeed ended when the Deathworlders arrived, but in their place, something better had begun. The humans had not conquered the galaxy through force. They had not demanded territory or resources. Instead, they had shown three warring species that cooperation was stronger than conflict, that helping others was more important than helping yourself. Maybe, Elder Nexus thought, these dangerous beings from the deadly world called Earth were exactly what the galaxy needed. Not as conquerors, but as teachers. Not as enemies, but as friends who would risk everything to protect others. The peace talks were over, but the real peace was just beginning.